4 dead climbers in just 4 days. 2 others are missing. That is the situation right now on Mount Everest.
And all of this raising questions about the safety of expeditions.
A startling new discovery on Mount Everest has taken the scientific community by surprise. Deep in the remote, icy heights of the world's highest peak, researchers have found something that has left them both shocked and worried. In this video, we'll explore this strange find, its potential impact, and why it's making scientists question what they thought they knew about Everest, the world's most dangerous and mysterious mountain. But before we dive into that, let's first explore a bit about Mount Everest itself. Mount Everest. At 8,848.86 meters, 29,031.7 feet, Mount Everest stands as the tallest mountain on Earth. Known as Sagarmatha in Nepali and Chomolungma in Tibetan, it is part of the Mahalungur Himal range in the Himalayas, sitting on the border between Nepal and Tibet. Over the years, Everest has become a global symbol of natural beauty and human perseverance, attracting adventurers and climbers from all over the world. The mountain's formation traces back 40 to 50 million years, when the Indian-Australian plate collided with the Eurasian plate, pushing up the Himalayan range. Everest itself started to take shape during the Pleistocene epoch, around 25 to 30 million years ago. Its structure includes metamorphic rocks like schists and gneisses at lower levels, with igneous granites and ancient sedimentary rocks from the Tethys Sea higher up. A particularly well-known formation, the Yellow Band, is visible just below the summit. Mount Everest has a striking triangular pyramid shape, with 3 main faces and ridges extending northeast, southeast, and northwest. The southeastern ridge is the most commonly used route by climbers. The mountain's climate is severe, with summer temperatures at the summit averaging around 19 degrees C, 2 degree F, and winter lows plunging to a 60 degrees C, 76 degree F. The air near the summit contains only a third of the oxygen found at sea level, posing a major challenge for climbers. Adding to the difficulty are powerful winds, which can exceed 160 kilometers per h, 100 miles per hour, during the winter when the mountain lies in the jet stream. Glaciers have sculpted Everest's rugged terrain over thousands of years. Prominent glaciers include the Kangshung Glacier, east, Khumbu Glacier, west and south, and Rongbuk Glaciers, north. These massive ice flows contribute to the mountain's erosion and are treacherous obstacles for climbers. Everest also holds deep cultural significance. In Tibetan culture, it is called Chomolungma, meaning Mother Goddess of the World, and in Nepali, it is known as Sagarmatha, or Peak of Heaven. These names underscore the spiritual importance of the mountain and its awe-inspiring presence. The mummified remains of George Mallory. Among Everest's many mysteries is the story of George Mallory, a British climber who vanished in 1924 during his attempt to reach the summit. In 1999, his frozen body was discovered at an altitude of 26,760 feet on the north face, 75 years after his disappearance. This discovery, part of the Mallory and Irvine research expedition, shed light on his tragic end, but left lingering questions about whether he and his climbing partner, Andrew Irvine, had succeeded in reaching the summit before their deaths. Mallory's remains, embedded in ice and rock, serve as a haunting reminder of the mountain's lethal beauty. Mallory's body was remarkably well preserved thanks to the freezing temperatures and high altitude. He was found dressed in early 20th century mountaineering gear, including a woolen sweater and heavy trousers. His arms were outstretched above his head, possibly hinting at a dramatic final moment. An examination revealed injuries consistent with a fall, including severe head wounds and a rope jerk injury around his waist, suggesting that he may have been tied to Irvine when the accident occurred. These details point to the likelihood of a fatal mishap during their descent. One of the enduring questions surrounding Mallory's story is whether he and Irvine managed to reach the summit before they died. Mallory had once expressed a desire to leave a photograph of his wife at the summit as a personal tribute. However, this photograph was not found among his belongings, fueling speculation about whether they accomplished their goal. Another key piece of evidence, the camera they were known to carry, remains missing. If recovered, it could potentially provide photographic proof of their success. But until then, the mystery remains unresolved. In October 2024, a discovery reignited interest in one of Mount Everest's greatest mysteries. A team led by filmmaker Jimmy Chin found partial remains believed to belong to Andrew Irvine, including a boot and sock embroidered with A.C. Irvine. These items were discovered at a lower altitude than George Mallory's final resting place, offering new hope that Irvine's remains or other artifacts might reveal crucial clues about their expedition. As researchers continue to examine these findings, the enduring question of whether Mallory and Irvine reached Everest's summit before their tragic deaths remains unanswered. The Rainbow Valley. Further emphasizing Everest's dangers is Rainbow Valley, a hauntingly beautiful yet grim area on the mountain. Located on the northern slopes above Camp 4 and at altitudes over 26,000 feet, 8,000 meters, this region lies within the death zone, where oxygen levels are too low to sustain life without supplemental support. The extreme cold, fierce winds, and treacherous terrain make this area perilous, even for seasoned climbers. Rainbow Valley has earned its name from the brightly colored jackets, boots, and gear left behind by climbers who have died there. These vivid colors stand out against the stark white snow, creating a surreal and eerie landscape. The bodies and equipment are often left untouched because recovering them from such high altitudes is both dangerous and logistically challenging. As a result, the valley has become a chilling graveyard, reminding climbers of the deadly risks involved in conquering the world's highest peak. Despite its eerie reputation as a graveyard for climbers, Rainbow Valley holds deep cultural significance. Tibetan traditions emphasize respect for those who have perished on Everest, and climbers often tie prayer flags around the bodies as a gesture of honor and remembrance. These flags, together with the brightly colored jackets and gear left behind, create a striking yet somber scene. For those who traverse this region, Rainbow Valley serves as a haunting reminder of the mountain's unforgiving nature and the immense human cost of attempting to conquer its summit. Sleeping Beauty of Mount Everest. One of the most tragic and enduring stories associated with Everest is that of Frances Arsentiev, remembered as the Sleeping Beauty of Mount Everest. Her story is a poignant mix of ambition, courage, and heartbreak, illustrating the extreme risks of high-altitude climbing. On May 23, 1998, Frances became the first American woman to summit Everest without supplemental oxygen, a remarkable achievement. Yet her triumph was overshadowed by the perilous descent that ultimately claimed her life. Born on January 18, 1958, in Honolulu, Hawaii, Frances developed a love for adventure and the outdoors early in life. Her determination and passion for mountaineering led her to pursue Everest alongside her husband, Sergei Arsentiev, a skilled Russian climber. The couple aimed to achieve the rare feat of summiting without supplemental oxygen. While they reached the peak successfully, their descent into the death zone became a harrowing ordeal. Exhaustion and altitude sickness began to take their toll on Frances as they descended. She became separated from Sergei, who, in a desperate attempt to save her, retraced his steps to find her. Tragically, Sergei also lost his life in the process. Frances, left alone at over 8,000 meters, 26,247 feet, battled the freezing cold and dangerously low oxygen levels. Her final words, "Don't leave me. Don't leave me alone, please," captured her fear and desperation. Frances's body was discovered days later by other climbers, resting in a peaceful, almost sleeping position amidst the harsh environment. This serene appearance earned her the nickname Sleeping Beauty. For years, her body remained exposed on the mountain, a poignant symbol of the dangers climbers face. In 2007, climber Ian Woodall led an expedition to give her a more dignified resting place. Her body was moved to a less visible location off the main route, and an American flag was placed over her as a tribute to her courage and legacy. The green boots. The body, believed to belong to Tsewang Paljor, an Indian climber, is known as green boots. Paljor developed a passion for climbing at a young age and later joined the Indo-Tibetan Border Police, ITBP, where he sharpened his mountaineering skills and took part in various expeditions. In 1996, he was selected for a historic ITBP team aiming to summit Mount Everest via the challenging Northeast Ridge route, a milestone for Indian climbers. The 1996 climbing season was marked by tragedy when several expeditions faced deadly storms. On May 10th, as Paljor and his team attempted to reach the summit, a sudden blizzard struck, causing whiteout conditions and drastically reducing visibility. The storm disoriented the climbers, and as the ITBP team became separated, Paljor sought shelter in a small limestone alcove at about 8,500 meters, 27,900 feet. Unfortunately, he succumbed to the harsh conditions. Paljor's body was discovered by other climbers in the years that followed, curled up in a protective position inside the alcove, now known as Green Boots Cave. His bright green Koflak mountaineering boots became a defining feature, giving him the nickname Green Boots. The sight of his body serves as a haunting reminder of the dangers of Everest. For many climbers ascending the northeast ridge, passing by Green Boots is both a chilling experience and a warning about the risks of high-altitude climbing. Green Boots has become an unofficial landmark for climbers, evoking mixed emotions. Some see it as a sign they are near the summit, while others are reminded of the perilous journey ahead. The body of Green Boots symbolizes both the peak of human achievement and the tragic consequences of ambition. However, while it is commonly believed that Green Boots is Tsewang Paljor, some theories suggest that he might be Dorya Morup, another member of the ITBP team who also died during the expedition. This uncertainty adds intrigue to his story. Regardless of his true identity, Green Boots remains a significant figure in mountaineering lore. In recent years, reports have indicated that his body has become more covered by snow due to shifting weather conditions on Everest. Despite this, the legacy of Green Boots continues, as climbers still share stories about encountering him. The ghosts of Everest. For the Sherpas, the Himalayas are more than just mountains. They are sacred, home to gods and spirits. This belief is deeply ingrained in their culture, and they show great respect for the mountain and its spiritual presence. Many Sherpas believe that disrespect towards Everest leads to bad karma and unrest in the spirits of climbers who have died there. They believe these spirits remain on the mountain, seeking closure or recognition, and this idea is common in Sherpa stories. In May 2004, Sherpa Pemba Dorji had a disturbing experience while trying to set a speed record on Everest. He reported seeing black shapes near the summit that seemed to be the ghosts of deceased climbers, reaching out as though they were asking for help. This experience reflects the belief that these spirits stay tied to the mountain until proper rituals are performed for them, showing how the Sherpas see a strong connection between life, death, and the spiritual world. Ghost sightings on Everest are not a new phenomenon. In 1975, climbers Dougal Haston and Doug Scott recalled feeling the presence of a third climber while they spent a tense night in a snowhole just below the summit. They described the figure as comforting them, suggesting that such encounters may provide psychological support during tough situations. Tragic events on Everest, like the deadly 2014 avalanche that claimed the lives of 16 Sherpas, have deepened these spiritual reflections. Afterward, many Sherpa guides and lodge owners expressed worry that younger generations of Sherpas are becoming disconnected from their spiritual traditions, focusing more on money than on the spiritual respect once associated with climbing. With the rise of commercial expeditions, a divide has formed between traditional Sherpa values and modern mountaineering. Many younger Sherpas are now climbing for financial reasons and often overlook the spiritual connections their ancestors had with the mountain. This shift has led to a cultural gap where respect for the mountain spirits is fading. However, despite these changes, stories of ghostly encounters continue among both climbers and Sherpas. Many climbers report feeling an unseen presence or experiencing moments when they believe they were guided by otherworldly forces while navigating the mountain. These experiences highlight that Everest is not only a physical challenge, but also a deeply spiritual journey. Ueli Steck's mysterious fall. Ueli Steck, often called the Swiss Machine, was renowned for his extraordinary climbing abilities and record-breaking feats. He became famous for his quick solo ascents, including the remarkable 2015 climb of the Eiger's North Face in just 2 hours and 22 minutes, setting a new benchmark for speed climbing. Over his 2-decade-long career, Steck became a leading figure in mountaineering, receiving honors like National Geographic's Adventurer of the Year in 2015. Steck was known for his meticulous preparation and a drive to constantly push his limits. He had previously climbed Mount Everest without supplemental oxygen in 2012 and planned ambitious projects like traversing Everest and Lhotse via the dangerous Hornbein Couloir. His passion for climbing was summed up in his own words: "If you have an accident, or if you're going to die, that's definitely not successful." On April 30th, 2017, while acclimatizing on Mount Nuptse, a peak near Everest, Steck tragically fell about 3,000 feet down the mountain's north face. He had been climbing alone after his partner, who suffered frostbite, had to turn back. Although Steck was seen ascending the mountain earlier that day, no one witnessed the fall, and the exact cause remains uncertain. Speculation suggests he may have slipped on the mixed snow and ice terrain typical at high altitudes. Steck's final communication with his partner showed that he was in good spirits and confident in his physical condition. Just hours later, news of his fatal accident reached base camp, leaving friends and fellow climbers in shock and disbelief. The climbing community was deeply affected by Steck's death, with tributes pouring in from climbers around the world. Veteran mountaineers hailed him as one of the greatest climbers of all time, not just for his technical prowess, but for his ability to inspire others. Sir Chris Bonington noted that while Steck's speed didn't necessarily increase his risk, it was the inherent dangers of high-altitude environments that posed the greatest threats to climbers. The body hanging from a rope on Mount Everest. The sight of climbers' bodies hanging from ropes on Mount Everest has become a haunting part of the climbing experience, often described as ghostly by those ascending the mountain. One of the most famous cases involves the body of Slovenian climber Marko Letenecker, who tragically died during his descent from the summit in 2000. His body has remained suspended at about 8,800 meters, 28,900 feet, acting as a grim reminder of the dangers of high-altitude climbing. Leitenecker was part of a ski mountaineering team when he ran into trouble with his oxygen equipment during the climb. Despite being fit and experienced, he couldn't survive the harsh conditions and froze to death on the mountain. His body was later found hanging from a rope, where it had stayed for over a decade, becoming a notorious marker for climbers attempting to reach the summit. The sight of Leitenecker's body has struck fear in many climbers, as it serves as a chilling symbol of the risks of high-altitude mountaineering. Oleg Savchenko, an Everest summiter who came across the body, described the horrifying scene of frozen corpses in different poses, reflecting the tragic moments leading to their deaths. This particular case has received attention not just for its emotional impact, but also for the ethical dilemma surrounding the decision to leave bodies on the mountain. Many climbers have reported strange experiences while passing by where Leitenecker's body hangs, often describing ghostly figures or eerie sensations. These experiences have contributed to the folklore surrounding Everest, with tales of spirits haunting its slopes. The vanishing snowboarder. Marco Siffredi, born on May 22, 1979 in Chamonix, France, grew up in a region known for its alpine sports and mountaineering culture. By the age of 23, Siffredi had already made a significant impact in the snowboarding world. In 2001, he became the first person to snowboard down Mount Everest via the Northern Couloir, establishing himself as a pioneer in extreme snowboarding. His ambition, however, extended beyond this achievement. For his second ascent of Everest, Siffredi aimed to descend via the more challenging Hornbein Couloir, a decision that would prove fatal. In September 2002, during his second expedition to Everest, Siffredi and his team faced harsh weather and high-altitude conditions. After reaching the summit on September 8th, he prepared to descend via the Hornbein Couloir, a steep and technically demanding route. Despite warnings from his Sherpa companions about worsening weather and increased risks, Siffredi chose to proceed. Witnesses reported that he seemed fatigued and distracted before beginning his descent in a bright yellow snowboarding suit. As Siffredi descended, his climbing partners lost sight of him amid the clouds and blowing snow. The last anyone saw was him standing near the edge of the couloir before disappearing from view. His tracks soon vanished without a trace, and no evidence of his whereabouts has been found since. The circumstances of his disappearance have led to numerous theories. Some believe that he may have succumbed to altitude sickness or exhaustion after stopping for a rest at a critical point in the descent. Others suggest that he could have been caught in an avalanche or fallen into a crevasse, both common dangers at high altitudes. Despite several attempts to find Siffredi's body in the years that followed, no trace of him has ever been discovered. Some climbers who have ventured into the Hornbein couloir after his disappearance have reported feeling an eerie presence or a sense of loss in the area where he was last seen, adding to the mystery surrounding his fate. The disappearing climbers. The mystery surrounding Mount Everest has been darkened by the unsettling reality that many climbers have gone missing over the years, with their fates remaining unknown. One of the most notable cases is that of Joe Tasker, a British climber who disappeared in 1982. Tasker was last seen on the northeast ridge at around 8,200 meters, and despite extensive search efforts, his body was never found. This has led to much speculation about what happened during his climb. Other climbers, such as Yasuo Kato and Tenzing Nuru, also disappeared near the summit under mysterious circumstances, with no clear answers about their disappearances. Sadly, the trend of climbers going missing continues to this day. In May 2024, two climbers, Daniel Paul Peterson from the UK and Pastenji Sherpa from Nepal, went missing after reaching the summit of Everest. They vanished after a snow mass collapsed during their descent, and despite a search operation, no trace of them was found. Officials stated that their chances of survival were very low due to the harsh conditions. During the same period, Kenyan climber Joshua Cheruiyot Kirui and his guide Nawang Sherpa also went missing. While Kirui's body was found between the summit and the Hillary Step, his guide is still missing. This incident highlights the extreme risks involved in climbing Everest and the emotional toll on the families and communities of those lost. The mystery of missing climbers affects not only their families, but also other climbers who attempt the Everest challenge. Many climbers report feeling uneasy or even fearful when passing through areas where others have disappeared. This psychological impact can influence their decisions as they weigh their ambitions against the very real dangers they face on the mountain. The tale of Maurice Wilson. After World War I, Maurice Wilson became fascinated with the idea of reaching the summit, inspired by earlier failed expeditions, especially the 1924 attempt by George Mallory and Andrew Irvine. Wilson believed that faith and physical endurance, along with prayer and fasting, could help him succeed, seeing his climb as a divine mission. In May 1932, Wilson learned to fly and piloted a Gypsy Moth biplane from Britain to India. However, when he reached Purnia, he was denied permission to fly over Nepal due to government regulations. Unfazed, he abandoned his plane and decided to trek overland to Everest. In Darjeeling, he planned to enter Tibet illegally, disguising himself as a Buddhist monk with 3 Sherpas who had prior Everest experience. They slipped out of Darjeeling on March 21, 1934, and reached Rongbuk Monastery by April 14, where they found equipment left by earlier expeditions. Wilson's first attempt to climb Everest started soon after he arrived at Rongbuk. Lacking mountaineering skills, he struggled with the East Rongbuk Glacier, often losing his way and failing to use essential gear. After an exhausting attempt, he retreated to the monastery to recover for 18 days. He set out again on May 12th with 2 Sherpas, making it to Camp 3 near the North Col after days of difficult travel. Despite progress, Wilson faced worsening weather and physical decline. On May 21st, he attempted to climb higher, but was stopped by a challenging ice wall. His determination remained strong, but his strength began to fade. On May 29th, Wilson made his final attempt. His last diary entry simply reads, "Off again, gorgeous day," but he was too weak to continue and camped at the base of the North Colonel. The next day, he did not emerge from his tent and likely died from exhaustion at around 6,920 meters, 22,703 feet. A year later, a British expedition led by Eric Shipton found Wilson's body. The condition of his remains suggested he had died alone on the mountain. Thank you for watching the video to the end. If you liked it, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel to enjoy more similar content. We'd love to hear your thoughts on these creeping discoveries found on Mount Everest in the comments. Until next time.